Cool. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. We're just going to go around for a minute and just introduce ourselves. We've got a couple of new faces, I think, actually. And then we're going to jump in. And I think the way to recap the expedition is to share a little video with you. It's just a few minutes long, and it shows you just some images of going down the river and a lot of portages that we did and climbing around dams. And then I'm happy to answer questions or give you some more information if you're curious about it. I think we might have a shorter meeting today. So I'm Stephanie. I think y'all know me by now from the collaborative. Ted.
Hi, Ted Beauvais. I'm currently the president of the Blackstone River Watershed Association.
Thanks. Adam.
Hi, Adam Menard, town planner for the town of Auburn.
Thanks. Katie.
I guess I'm the only Katie on the call today. My name is Katie. I'm a graduate student at Clark University, and I've been interning with Stephanie this summer.
Thank you. Gary.
Gary Bechtold, town planner in Northbridge.
Ray.
Hi, Ray Kelly from Millbrae. I'm ZAP 50 director and also on the Millbrae Nature Trails Committee.
Thanks, Donna.
Donna Williams, Blackstone River Coalition and the Blackstone Heritage Corridor.
Thanks. Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan Shimgaralik. I'm the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called CC4ES, which stands for Coalition Center for Environmental Sustainability.
Thanks. Paul.
Good morning, Paul Papinchuk, 350 Central Mass, Friends of Wetherill Park, and Building Electrification Accelerator in Worcester.
Thanks. Keith.
Keith Heenley with the Blackstone River Watershed Council, Friends of the Blackstone, and the Blackstone River Coalition. I pick up a lot of trash.
He picks up a lot of trash. Deb Carey.
With Mass Audubon in Central Mass.
Thanks. Carla.
Carla Sangre. I'm the director at Upper Blackstone Clean Water.
Tim. Loftus. He might be missing his audio right now, but he's also from Upper Blackstone Clean Water. Jesse Davis.
Hey, Jesse Davis, City of Worcester Sustainability Project Manager.
Thanks. John Marsland.
John Marsland, president of the Blackstone River Watershed Council, Friends of the Blackstone.
Also picks up a lot of trash. Sarah Bauer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah, technical specialist with Mass Rivers Alliance.
Thanks. Rebecca.
Rebecca Quinones with Mass Wildlife.
Thanks. Greg.
Greg Dorschler, Intercollegiate Outdoors Coordinator with the Greater Worcester Land Trust.
Thanks. Nick.
Hi, everyone. This is Nick Cohen with the Horsley Witten Group.
Thanks. Dawn.
Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Rosser. I don't think I have my video on. Just saying hello. I'm contributing a lot of history to the ZAP history of the Blackstone River Valley.
Thanks. Allison. I don't think we caught her audio, but Allison Hamill's from Rhode Island DOT. Molly. We don't have your audio either, Molly. Oh, you're on mute. That's why. That's easy. Molly Cardoza, Director of Volunteer and Community Engagement, Blackstone Heritage Corridor. Thanks. Let's see, Peter Coffin.
Peter Coffin with the Blackstone River Coalition and Blackstone Headwaters Coalition.
Thank you. Hillary?
Morning, Hillary King, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program with the Mass EEA.
Thanks, Hillary. And Sam?
Hi, yeah, I'm a reporter with GBH News, just sitting in. I'm the Worcester reporter for GBH.
Thanks for coming, Sam. Did I miss anybody else? Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to jump in and share my screen here. And I think all of you are well aware, but we just finished up last weekend our Blackstone River Commons Expedition 2022. And so this started, I give full credit to Emily Vogler, my partner in crime here at RISD. She's a landscape architecture professor at RISD. And she had this crazy idea of, hey, what if we paddled the whole Blackstone River like they did in 2000? A lot of good came out of that. A lot of people really, you know, got eyes on the river and brought attention to the challenges of it, and a lot of advocacy and stewardship came out of that. So maybe we should do it again. And she just really wanted to paddle the river. And a few of us said, yes, sure, let's do that. And so Emily Vogler and Frank Corteza, who's the president of Rhode Island Canoe and Kayak Association, and myself paddled the whole 60 miles. And we had a lot of folks joining us throughout, including some of the folks on the call today, like Katie and Carla's team. And we also had a really wonderful support crew with Keith and John and numerous other volunteers, and it really all came together in a really successful way. We engaged with probably about 400 people over the 4 days. We started out in Worcester on August 11th, and we ended in Providence on August 14th. So I'm just going to play this video for you, and you can get an idea of some of the things that we saw, including the really significant drought that we went through. Some of these areas are very surprising. We dragged our boats for about a mile in Uxbridge, but I'll share this with you, and happy to talk about this.
From our takeout and getting up a hill here. Like, oh hey, there's some cows.
Apparently the audio does not match up.
You can see that we're still knocking into stuff.
This is one of the higher dams we went around. And under some branches here. Very low water. Right up ahead. So, dam in Grafton, and it's just so serene and lovely. You can tell I did not take the time to really make this into a perfect video. I let iPhone do it for me. But we did, we were really lucky to have a videographer with us, as well as another photographer and videographer that came on day 1 and 4. So we will have some professional outcomes of this as well that'll come a bit later. There's a bald eagle's nest here. This is the really dry riverbed. And it was such a juxtaposition of really industrial areas and really beautiful areas. This is Riverfest, where we worked with 250 to 300 folks that came. This is duckweed, one of the original areas into the canal. We saw 337 fires throughout our entire trip. We were lucky to see some really gorgeous sunsets.
Of the Blackstone River.
And then we took out at 9 p.m. on our second night. Bright and early the next morning, starting out in Woonsocket. Really steep portage up a riprap bank.
It is just
Some
absolutely
casualties.
beautiful. Absolutely.
A lot of infrastructure under the river. You can see we're about 15 feet low in Woonsocket down there. We met with some wastewater treatment plant operators going through a boot camp program and went out on the river with them and had some conversations. Our support crew going through this. My favorite picture of Keith. You can see our videographer way up on the hill there taking our photo. One of our portages on the bike path. A long portage on the bike path through Cumberland. Lots of great blue herons on the trip. This is a super fun site in Cumberland, Lincoln area. Tons of water chestnut at Lonsdale Marsh. About 20 acres of water chestnut there, unfortunately. We're working on that. Lots of damselflies and dragonflies though. This I'm taking out in Central Falls. We were well fed. We're very appreciative of all of our volunteers helping us. Took out a lot of trash along the way as well. Our last dam getting to the national park. The walls we had to climb over with our boats. And then at the end we had this public paddle, which we had over 50 people come and paddle with us and canoes kayaks. That's my mom and my grandma that came with me. And with us. EPA regional administrator there, Cormorant in the background, and some of our wonderful speakers. I didn't get a lot of photos at the end because we were chatting, but that hopefully gives you a sense of what the river looked like at different points along the way. Any questions or folks that were on the trip, if you want to make comments about it?
Last week or something.
Yeah, Paul, jump in.
Stephanie, scheduling did not allow us to participate in this, but my wife and I are very interested in paddling the river. And is there a good map that would show where all the dams are in particular to rely on, if you could point us in a direction?
That's a great question. And that's something that Emily's actually working on as one of the follow-ups to this, is putting together all of the really wonderful information that they had to create in order to have this trip, and so that others can use it into the future. But I think at the moment, the best thing to do is just maybe contact me, and I can get you in touch with Emily, and Frank is probably one of the best contacts also. So Frank Corteza from Rhode Island Canoe and Kayak Association, they do kayak in Massachusetts as well. They're just called RICA, and they have some really good information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Deb?
Yeah, I wondered if you felt that any of the sort of 20 action steps from the assessment report you felt got really embraced, or were there some high points where you felt like, yes, they get it, or some of the participants or speakers?
Yeah, so one of the things, I think throughout the entire time, it was really apparent that access was challenging. And so I think we talked about access every single day on the river. and that we needed better portages, we needed better signage. You know, you'd come up to a dam and there would be no signage, or it would be this big on a huge dam, and you had to get very close to see it. There were no buoys in front of a dam, which can be a real hazard as well. And we also talked a lot about fish passage. So on our 4th day in the morning, we met with some specific targeted dam owners and nonprofits like Save the Bay and the Nature Conservancy and the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program. And we talked specifically about how we can go forward on fish passage around some of the lower 4 dams and how important that was, and all the different considerations that we're balancing at once. So yeah, I think a lot of them came out. And then of course, things like water chestnut and recreation and water quality. We met with water quality volunteers. We met with the wastewater treatment plant operators. So quite a few of them really made their way in. Yeah. Are there questions or comments from folks? John.
Just so glad you did it.
Yeah, thanks.
I have a comment. I know Bill Luther from Ricka said that was the largest paddle he's ever been involved with, going from Pawtucket down to Providence. That's quite a statement. They've been around a long time paddling, so I think we made a big impression down there.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We were really fortunate to have some great folks as part of it, and including, I think some of the really clear follow-ups. We had some great targeted conversations with folks like the director of DEM, Terry Gray, who was, really engaged. He brought his wife Natalie with him. It was a fun time. He was a speaker at the brewery at the end, and he followed up immediately and gave us some more information about the Superfund site that we were concerned about. He said that he would like to paddle again with us. Hopefully, we can get a bit more rain and go out again in September. And I had some great conversations with David Cash, who's our regional administrator for EPA. Not to, quote him necessarily, but he was really impressed, I think, with our work on bringing together a lot of different folks and having these tough conversations. And when we were paddling, he said, I wasn't sure if I should say in my statement at the brewery something about how we need to be representative of our communities and how a lot of us here are white, right? And the communities that we're paddling through are primarily not. So what do you think? And I said, please do say that, like, hold us accountable. We want to be more engaged with the communities and be more representative. So he came right out and talked about the importance of engaging with our Indigenous communities, and really wanted to be introduced to some of our tribal elders from the Nipmuc Nation that came from the Hassamisko band. So I was really happy with a lot of those things, bringing them to light.
And we had a great conversation about the fish ladder project, which is one of the 20 action plans. So
absolutely. Any other thoughts, comments, questions about the paddle itself? Ray.
I'm no river water level expert, but if there's a certain amount of volume of water going down the river, how'd you get to these places that had no water? Where'd the water go? Like into floodplains or marshes or something at the edges? Or
yeah, we think that where the water was entirely missing in Uxbridge, it was diverted into the canal. And so it just kind of stole the water into the side, and then the main stem didn't have a flow at all for quite a bit of it. So that's what we're thinking. But otherwise, the river is just really low.
yeah, is the canal still useful?
It depends on the part. Some of it, you need to paddle the canal to be able to get back into the river in some areas. I probably am not the one to answer that. I think it has its own historical value as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Donna, you might be able to say more about that too.
I just want to congratulate you all for this fabulous Herculean effort to really shine the spotlight on the river and all of its issues, all of its glory and beauty. And it was, the timing was beautiful and perfect. And congratulations, especially on the event at the brewery. You know, have a Gansett, neighbor. But it was quite a crowd, and you had the right people there on that paddle and at the grand finale. So beautiful job, all of you.
Thank you so much, Donna. And you all that did the paddle in 2000 really set the stage for us and provided the foundation for us to be able to do it again. So Emily is already talking about, oh, I want to paddle the whole thing again in September, which I think she's mad. But I might do it next year, maybe. Yeah. So maybe we'll make it an annual. Peter and then Keith.
Yes, about great job on the expedition. A lot of good enthusiasm and good energy. But the water in the canal, it is tearing up the historic canal. And the ranger there is looking for money to try to restore because the water is taking it out. So that is a major problem that the state is trying to deal with, but there's no resources. So that should be a focus somehow.
Yeah, it's a good point. I would need to have a more informed conversation with folks who know better than me on that one. Keith. If you were on mute.
That better?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say, going back a bit, anybody that needs directions or anything about how to get in and out along the way, being a support person, as I am, I know all of those. And as I wrote to the group, we need more signage along the river. We did it here in Rhode Island a few years ago, where at least there's something on the road tells you can get to the water here. And I didn't find that up there, but anybody that wants to do some of that paddle, if they get a hold of me, I have most of the information on that.
Yeah, let me know if you want anyone's contact info, and I can give you Keith's info too. We learned a lot. We learned a lot. Anything else before we move on here? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for participating in the paddle and supporting us in whatever way you have, whether it's just sharing something on Facebook or telling your friends or being a speaker or paddling, portions of it or support crew, etc. It was really, I think Donna had the right word of Herculean effort. It was a lot, and I'm really glad we did it. That was also, I didn't think it would be as much fun as it was, but it was fantastic. So made some great friends along the way too. So I'm gonna share this link with you in the chat. It's going to, just as a warning, it will expire, I think, in like a month. That's what iPhone does. But if you want to see the pictures, they're there. I'm happy to send you pictures as well. And like I said, Clark University videographer is going to create a short video. And then we also worked with a documentarist who's going to be creating another video. So I'll share those with you when they come out. So next on our agenda, we have some subgroup updates. So for municipal resolutions, we just scheduled with the city of Worcester, and we'll be presenting to them in September, which is fantastic. That one's been a long time coming to their city council. I don't have another update on that, but ZAP 50th, I know, is coming up. That's our next big hurdle here. And it's not this weekend, as in not tomorrow, but a week away. So Ray, you want to update us?
I'm finishing something real quick. Can you just put me at the end? Can you come back to me at the end of the subgroups? I just need like 2 minutes.
Sure, take your time. So for Bikeway Greenway, this is something that also came up on our paddle as we went along. It was really nice to be able to see the the bikeway in portions and have people kind of recreating all over along the river. I don't think that we have any other updates on that one, do we? I don't think so. Okay. How about water quality? Again, we met with water quality folks. We had a lot of great conversations about that. Is there anything that folks want to share about water quality? Yeah. Keith, is your hand still up? Or is that new?
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk some about water quality either here or during partner update. And a lot of it is around the combined sewer overflow situation and how to better address that and the impacts on the Blackstone. And it does involve obviously the city of Worcester. And now that there's notification, I think it's something that has actually been going on for a while, but it really wasn't as apparent to people, including us and the BRWA. And now we are more aware of it. And I think the notification is serving a good purpose in terms of transparency. We'd like to kind of mount a campaign to do something about combined sewer overflow and other wastewater, stormwater issues. They happen in a lot of places, but in particular with the Blackstone, the one permitted CSO is in fact from Worcester. There is a 15% of the city is a legacy combined system dating back to, a couple hundred years ago. And it does go into this Consigment Avenue facility where there is some storage and treatment. So there's not that it hasn't been completely ignored. It's being addressed. But ultimately, we feel that the solution to that is separation, and like 85% of the city is separated, and I think that's a good long-term goal, and we want to kind of mount a campaign towards that end, and also to address other stormwater, wastewater problems that Worcester is trying to deal with. They have a great integrated plan out there. I've dug into that in the last week. And talked to Jay Fink, the head of DPW, and there's a lot of good information in that integrated plan that the city of Worcester did back in 2019. And there's frankly hundreds of millions, if not billions, of infrastructure needs in this area, and that's a heavy lift. And Worcester is not a wealthy city. There's a lot of environmental justice communities, lower income communities. The ratepayers need to do their share, but they can only do so much. So it's not as simple. I mean, part of me says CSOs must go, and that's a nice tagline. But as I start to dig into it, there's a lot to it. But I think we would like to, as a BRWA and maybe the collaborative here, support the city of Worcester, because any actual grants and construction that's going to be done is obviously going to have to be with and through the city of Worcester. But I think we could help with at the federal and state level to get some political and financial support for these actions over time to improve the systems in Worcester with a net improvement downstream all the way through Massachusetts and down to Narragansett Bay. It's I think one of the larger sources that still needs to be addressed. And we think there's a lot of work to do there.
Yeah. And I am working also with the city to do a tour of the CSO facility. We'd picked one date, and then I know that a couple folks were out of town for that, so we changed it. I'm waiting to confirm with the city if it still works for them, but would Tuesday, September 13th work for people that were interested in participating in that? It would probably be during the day.
It won't work for me, but I would like to try to do another one later.
Okay, well, let me email you again and find a date that works for both you and Mary Keith, because you're the two folks that have really reached out and are interested in doing that tour. I know the city wanted to do it kind of sooner rather than later. So if we can find a time that works for a few folks, we can get that on the books and share it. The tour will probably be capped at maybe like 15 or 20 folks, just because the facility itself is really small. But they did say that if we wanted to have like, 20 come in and then go out and another group go in, we could do that. And I know that they're interested, we could do a different day. And also Jesse from the city of Worcester was interested in doing maybe a tour for the Green Worcester Advisory Committee that I also serve on. So depending on how many folks we get signed up, we might do a couple anyway. Keith, did you want to jump in? You're on mute.
All right. I just wanted to go back one thing to the bikeway. I didn't say anything. There is one update there. They things are approved to connect Rhode Island and Massachusetts there in Blackstone by where we were, where we put in. It's going to go right there. It's going to go across those ruins and everything and connect the bike path from one to the other, that's a big move. Now we can go all the way from Central Falls to Blackstone and above. I think that's great.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Mass needs to catch up with Rhode Island in terms of the bikeway. Anything on CSOs? Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to tag on to Ted's comment about the CSO, just to give some context to the other people here. We do take in a lot of the, at Upper Blackstone Clean Water, we do take in a lot of the CSO discharge, but to a certain point. When we have these rainstorms, we get millions of gallons more water than either place is designed for. And often even at the treatment plant, some of our processes are underwater because the Blackstone has backed up and it's often 4 to 6 feet above the normal levels here. So there's a lot of challenges. I can't speak for the CSO for the amount of gallons, although we've seen, in the tens of millions coming in. But we have a design here. And our average flow is 30 million gallons. On a major rainstorm, we can get a rate of 170 million gallons coming in here. So those are some of the challenges that Ted was alluding to, that it's they were more, it's a bigger issue than just saying shut off the CSO or do these other things. It requires a lot of infrastructure to change the treatment that was accepted, 50 years ago. So I just wanted to put some context in that for the people who aren't familiar with us or the little I know about the CSO in Worcester.
Yeah, thank you. And I think maybe after we do the tour, it would be helpful to have the city come to the meeting and talk a bit about what we saw and what we learned. Anyone else on CSO or water quality?
I could add one thing too to what Ted was talking about with the integrated plan. I think I would recommend that we do everything that we can to support getting that plan put into place as a permanent obligation to keep going down the road of that plan, and to wherever possible find additional funding, like Ted said, so that they can at least keep up with it or even escalate the progress, because it's a really long schedule. One of the ways I like to describe the benefits of the things they want to do is like this. The sewer pipes in Worcester that come to our facility are broken. In a lot of cases, there's no invert on the pipe, right? So you have a pipe and the bottom is gravel. And so what can happen is that when the groundwater is really high, we get a lot of water at the treatment plant because groundwater is infiltrating into the sewer pipes. But also what's happening is that the sewage itself is infiltrating into the soil in those areas where the pipes are broken and then getting into stormwater pipes, which even so separated stormwater pipes, you know, or that discharge directly into our waterways. So that's something where there's nothing that we can do at the treatment plant to get that wastewater to come to us to treat it unless they fix the pipes. You know, and that's why we've been supportive of pushing for that, those recommendations in the integrated plan, because we can't help them treat that water if they can't get it to us. And I think the admitting sort of the state of the infrastructure is a big deal. Like, you just have to air your dirty laundry and say, yep, our pipes are busted. They are bad news. They're 100 years old. We just have not kept up with it. And so anything we can do to speed up the process of getting in there and replacing those pipes, I think is going to have multiple benefits.
Thanks, Carla. Anyone else? Okay. Well, let me send out an email and maybe I'll do a one of those things where you pick times that work for you, when to meet and all of that. So we can get a tour on the books. The city's been great about being really flexible. I think Dave Harris would be the one maybe to do the tour. He's the Assistant Director of Sewer Operations, I think is his title. He's great to work with. So we will make it work, but we're thinking probably like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, next on our agenda. Oh, and I put a link to the integrated plan, which is a massive document. I would suggest like starting with a summary of a table of contents first. But the link to it is there if you're interested. I don't think we have a lot of our university folks on the call today, but are there any university updates otherwise? Okay, and I know for water chestnut and invasives, we do have another chestnut poll coming up. John, do you want to mention that? Do you have the details? Or maybe Katie has the details. I can also find them and share them in a minute.
Yeah, I know there's a chestnut poll going through the Blackstone Valley Tourism Council and RIDEM, and so I can pop that in the chat.
Thanks. Thank you. Keith?
I was just going to say that they have one tomorrow at Central Falls Landing. They're going to be doing, which is kind of a follow-up to where we started a couple of months ago.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, and let's hop back up to and I know I did not make you a presenter yet. Give me 1 second. All right, go ahead.
So good morning again. This will be my last presentation before all of the ZAP excitement next week into, extending all the way to September 10th. So I'm hoping at the September meeting to come back with a lot of great photos and information and say, wow, thank you so much for your help. But we are still in the please, can you help us section. So I will talk quick and hopefully you can listen quickly too. This is a lot of repeat information. So I think most people know what ZAP is and how it's supporting the needs assessment. This is the poster you've seen quite a while. This is a new one. It's focusing on the acts that are going to be at September 10th. I'm not too familiar with most of them, but I think there are a lot of local acts that a lot of people know. So that's the poster. So again, August 27th, September 10th. Cleanup, and improvement projects across the watershed. A lot of trash, a lot of, focus on litter cleanup, focus on getting some stuff out of the river where we can. Those 337 tires, and those pictures, Stephanie, we were hoping that some of those pictures were going to help us to find some spots. So I'll be looking through those to see if those are helpful, because they were supposed to be geolocated, right? So if I just poke into the pictures, hopefully they're telling us where they are. So like for my group, the Millbury Nature Trails group, we're actually going to be working on the bikeway, but it's really close to the river, and we've already spotted some things that we hope we can reach. The low level of the river might actually help us quite a bit if we don't sink into any mud. September 10th, that's our celebration day, and those things are really coming together. And we're also hoping that people get out and do some activities on that day. And then again, we're getting close to the end here, so we really are hoping that our efforts improve the visibility of all the other partners in the Watershed Collaborative. All these local organizations that are going to outlast ZAP. On September 11th, you're still going to be around doing things. So we really hope that this is a good shot in the arm. Let me just see if there's any chats here. All right, sorry. Want to make sure there was nothing I was missing. So we're still doing the planning and efforts for the 27th and 10th. ZAP Day really is August 27th, but it's kind of extended into the week. Like at my company, I'm trying to get people involved on August 26th as a work day, as a work activity. So when volunteers sign up, they get a projects list to pick from. And, we've been connecting the people to all the local community captains or project leaders. We're still having, I think, really good success across the board. And that, local partnerships are just critical. Some of this is repeat, but ZAP was in the Rhode Island Monthly magazine in August. I was at the Blackstone Valley Historical Society just this past weekend, and I found out today that the Woonsocket mayor, I believe first name is Lisa Baldelli Hunt, put out a press release about ZAP, which was pretty cool. And there's all sorts of additional info at zapblackstone.com about the history and what's going on, and what people are writing about us. And one of the coolest things is the memories of the original Zapsters back in 1972. That's in the history section. So that's pretty cool to see what they remember, and historical items, pictures. The radio and TV push is still continuing. On Sunday, David Quinn, who was an original Zapster, and Donna from BVTC will be on Cat Country and Big 101.3. And then Donna will be tonight at Levitt Amp Fest. I imagine she'll have a table there. And we do have buttons. There have been buttons for many of the previous apps, and we do have them. Right now, they are at the Tourism Council office, and I expect we will be distributing them very soon. Again, I think this is important. We did some really good TV on Northbridge Community Television, and also some audio recordings. And so if you're interested in the history and also what's going on today, those are great places to learn about that. And as Dawn said earlier, she's helping with the ZAP history, and she was a big part of those. So what does ZAP 50 need still? Community captains, it's probably not so much, but definitely still volunteers. It's not too late to volunteer. You can sign up. We probably have enough projects, but if somebody bring something up that's pressing, and people want to do it, we'll do it. You know, those people can go do it. It'll be on the list. We also we're at the end of the sponsors, but I still think we're pushing for those a little bit. We're going to have a book. We're going to have a program the day of. So there's a big sponsorship form, tells people what they get. But on September 10th, you know, they're going to be announced from the stage, and, you know, all sorts of different things depending on what level sponsorship. And also they go on the website. And if you've seen the website list, it's grown like crazy, which is terrific. Support from partners, support from you. A big thing that we haven't got too much back on is the September 10th RSVPs for tables. A bunch of groups were invited, and not many of them responded to that RSVP, to the BVTC, about the accepting a table and saying, you know, we'll be there. So I would really encourage people to do that and to respond to that. Personal efforts. We are certainly trying to organize everybody, but at the very least, if people want to just, as Bonnie puts it, grab a bag, go for a walk, and pick up litter somewhere in the watershed. Being a part of the effort is simple and easy. So we encourage you to do that. You know, our end result isn't just to get people working on August 27th. It's to, you know, encourage this attitude of this is important. And the more people that do this, regardless of whether it's in an organized project or just on their own, you know, the more impact we will have. These are the basic lists. Some of these things we need less now, you know, but these are certainly things that we've needed over the time. And if people still want to step forward an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever they want to contribute, I still think we could use your help in a lot of different ways. So again, zaptheblackstone.com. We're trying to post on Facebook. Please, you know, repost if you're interested, if you can. We're on Instagram as well. And if you have any direct questions, you can send them to info@zaptheblackstone.com. And I just want to say to Stephanie, thank you so much for your support and, you know, letting me yammer on every month for the past, I don't know, 10 months or so. I really appreciate that, and Zap really appreciates that. This, you know, venue has really helped us to bring awareness and get people involved. So thanks for all that, and thanks everybody else on the call as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have more events in Worcester than I can manage. I think there are 5 or 6 just in the city. So I know there are a lot going on all over the watershed, which is fantastic to see.
It is. It is. Does anybody have any questions? You can feel free to reach me afterwards.
Or you can put them in the chat too, if you think about it later. Okay, it is partner update time. So folks, whatever you're working on and you want us to know about, if you have events coming up, if you have things that you'd like us to share out in the notes, let me know. Feel free to jump in.
Steph,
No, there you go.
yeah, for North, I just want to, I haven't been going to the meetings. I do apologize. But I'm back. My summer's over, so my Fridays are with you now. As far as updates, the Open Space Committee Update Committee is working towards updating their plan. We hope to have a draft done in the next couple of months. We're certainly incorporating a lot of the action items identified in that needs assessment report. Thank you again for participating at one of our public forums. We've also recently completed an MVP analysis of Carpenter Reservoir. So a lot of that also will be included into our open space plan. And we're also working with our DPW director in identifying or prioritizing the various action items that were identified as part of that MVP project for Carpenter Reservoir. And I think maybe most of you don't know, but Northbridge hadn't had a conservation agent, or at least a full-time agent. We were fortunate in the last 5 years to have a shared conservation agent with the town of Upton. But with town meeting this past May, we now have a full-time conservation agent, which is pretty awesome. So definitely looking forward to continue working with David Pickart on that. And some of you may have already met him. So very excited about that. And that's more or less it.
That's awesome. And I did notice, I was driving through Northbridge, I think yesterday, and I saw your signs in front of the high school that said, we're in a drought, there are water usage bans, check out the website. So I appreciate the kind of public facing information on that too. Susan.
I just want to, last meeting, I mentioned about pallets, and also my whole thing, CC4S is a lot of a repurposing. So I just want to update. The one thing I mentioned at the meeting last month was a extreme heat mitigation. As a measure of that, we actually repurposed the old used cells. So we got that project done. And it happened in New West Ramondo with the youth group. And this ties into Ray's ZAP 50, having community members engage about, environmental sustainability. So that's going on. And then another thing is, I think this is one project I presented here very first time, is Rhodey Grows Hope, repurposing container gardening program, repurposing plastic recyclables. Now we expand it to repurposing pallets and heat treated pallets. So as of yesterday, we created 8 raised garden beds for these communities in New West Ramondo, in their community, South Providence community. And again, this ties into a lot of stewardship, environmental stewardship. And eventually we, just getting into trees, and then how the water and how everything kind of connects. So I just want to thank everybody, who gave me some pointers how to go about. But bottom line was actually connecting with the communities. It's a small circle, grassroots. It just made it happen. Even though a lot of big organizations really helped, but there are so much of a liability issues because there's a lot of contamination happening. So I thought that's something we all should be aware of when we're doing a lot of work. So thank you, everyone.
That's awesome. And if you have some information on your website or photos of those raised beds or the how you reuse the sales, I'd love to see it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, so in that regard, I actually had to create the subdivision is called, you can actually go into, I can share the link. I had to create a separate website for the youth program, because otherwise I had to get individual photo and media waiver from each individual person. So I created a website, I'll share the link, and so you get to see all of them. But I haven't uploaded all the pictures yet because it's still coming in. So just, I'll give you a link. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Other updates, partner updates from folks? Peter.
Yes, hi, Steph. A couple updates. Our water quality program is going gangbusters again, the second Saturday, and hopefully you'll meet sometime Heather Perry, who is our new coordinator. She's great. And we had met with Therese Bodwin from Mass DEP. So just as the value of our long-term monitoring, that the state of Massachusetts has used that to take off the list for dissolved oxygen in Mumford. And then also it strengthened the state's interest in I believe it's the Hopedale treatment plant on the West River. So these tributaries that aren't necessarily tested, our long-term testing is useful to the state. So that was good to hear. One of our colorimeters died. It's 20 years old, so we're going to have to replace that. But it's really the BRWA's work, but Joanne Hollhand has been doing some Enviroscape in the city of Woonsocket. So we're encouraging her to apply for some more monies to continue that outreach effort. And a little bad news, I'm not sure what, Spindleville Pond, which is on the Mill River in Hopedale, had an alert had gone out not to swim or put your dog in because of a green sheen on the lake. So it's algae out there. Who knows if it's bad, but at times of low water like this, it's popping up. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we definitely saw a lot of that on the paddle too. So when there were portions of the water that had just been kind of sitting, it was shallow, it was really warm, there was a lot more algae there. So certainly that's another implication from the drought on nutrient management. Other art partner updates.
Hi, Stephanie, it's Patty with Blackstone Valley Tourism Council. I just got done with a cleanup in Burrville for ZAP 50 with Bob Charpentier with Friends of the Blackstone, who's doing amazingly well considering he's, been battling cancer. So he's, what a go-getter. He organized it, picked up the stuff. It was great. I just want to make sure everyone, organizations have received the invitation that I sent out by email for the September 10th celebration at Slater Mill, because I have not received very many RSVPs, and I do need to know who's coming if you want to have a table for your organization. We do have a limit of 20 tables, but also just want to like to know if you're there, so we make sure we recognize your organization during the recognitions in between the wonderful music that's planned. So if you can RSVP Patty at tourblackstone.com, P-A-T-T-I, I can put that in the chat. Also, just a reminder, there's a water chestnut pull that Sam, our river education, director of river education, is coordinating tomorrow at Central Falls Landing. I don't know if any of you saw, I sent the photo around to a couple of you folks of the drone photo that David Lawler took of the chemical treatment. Katie DeGush said we just kind of need to watch, make sure we don't have any algae blooms there, because with the chemical treatment and the low water and the heat, there could be an issue with dissolved oxygen. So we're kind of keeping an eye out for that when we're out on the water. So that's all I have for updates, for an update.
Thanks, Patty. And I don't know if I've actually technically RSVP'd, but I will be there on the 10th. I did, apologies if people have emailed me and I have not gotten back to you in the past few weeks. The paddle sort of stole my life for a bit there. So I promise
and also if you can prepare something for we're going to have a little booklet that we'll be handing out too on the needs assessment and the Watershed Collaborative. I like what you wrote for the chamber, maybe something like that, but maybe a little bit shorter. I think we have like a half page. I'm sorry, I forgot to show you the Land and Water Summit booklet from last week. I had it with me and then I forgot all about it.
No problem. Yes, I can work on that too.
Thanks. Yeah.
Other folks with updates? Okay, well, if you,
Just a quick update. As some of you know, we had some ability to add staff at Mass Audubon in Central Mass, and we are welcoming a new woman, Sarah Bertrand, and she'll be an education coordinator and but really focused on involving young people and issues. And I think she'll start attending the collaborative meetings starting in September. So excited to welcome another person to support all your efforts.
Awesome. Happy to also go out to lunch or take a hike with her when she shows up.
Great.
Any other updates? Colleen. We don't have your audio, Colleen. If you're hooked up through your phone might also be muted. You can type your update into the chat. Thank you. I'll give you a second there. And for context, Colleen is interning or working with National Park Service this summer to create an environmental sort of booklet for our folks who work at the park to be able to interpret better on our environmental history and water quality and climate change and things like that for the public. She is one of the many folks that I owe an email to. Maybe while she's typing, does Mass Audubon, I don't know if Deb, you have an update from your weekend as well. You had the Butterfly Festival, which I heard was really successful.
We did. We had a fabulous festival. I can't say anything more about it, but other than I know it was a great event and they sent me wonderful pictures, but I was recovering from COVID. And that's why I didn't get to paddle or do anything over the Blackstone weekend. I was really disappointed, but
Okay.
now much better.
Good.
But
Yeah.
anyway, it was a really great event. And
Awesome. Colleen says she's finishing up with the design of environmental guide for the Blackstone River Valley National Park. She's currently formatting the final draft and excited to share that out shortly. And it's her hope that other organizations and environmental educators can draw on this as a resource as well. I think that will be absolutely true. I looked everything over and you've got a great diverse area of topics. Yeah, some of the topics include environmental history of the watershed, attention to particular challenges such as storms, flooding, invasives, etc. So I think it'll be a great resource, and definitely let me know when you're finished, and maybe next month, if it makes sense, if you'd like to do a presentation about it to the collaborative, I'm happy to put you on our calendar. Perfect. All right. So I think September 16th, we don't have official speakers, but I figured we would have a ZAP update as sort of one of our speakers. I saw fingers. Is that a yes, Ray?
That is one ZAP update, and then that's it.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Yeah. So definitely we'll have some images and things to share from that, and then we can have Colleen talk about her document as well, and there's some information there and how we can all use it. Awesome. Okay. So if you have other updates, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. And then the last part of our meeting is talking about these priority projects and criteria. So this is something that we've wanted to work on for a long time, and we keep running out of time in our meetings because there's a lot to talk about. But I think especially after, the paddle and seeing so much of the river firsthand, I would love to know kind of what raises to the top for you guys, if there are particular things that you're working on. I know BRWA is really focused on the CSO issue right now, and I'm happy as the collaborative to coordinate with that as best I can and help out. I know that access has been a real big challenge and something that we've been working on quite a bit. Certainly the drought in the short term, hopefully, is something that we are working on. I don't know, Sarah, if you wanted to say anything else, that there was priority legislation around the drought that unfortunately did not get passed. I'm sure you guys will be working on that again moving forward. But I think education and outreach around the drought is going to be really important because we're finally just starting to think about it. I feel like that it's not just kind of a Western US issue. Yeah.
Stephanie, yeah. So as you mentioned, unfortunately, it didn't move to the next level this year in this legislative session, but we plan to also bring it up in the next session. And with that said, if anybody does have other priorities that they'd like Mass Rivers to focus on and push for the next session that's going to start, I believe this fall, let us know. We'd always be happy to hear your feedback and what your priorities are, other than drought, especially. Thanks.
So definitely drought, I would say, like I said, access, fish passage, that's more of a Rhode Island thing that we're working on over the lower 4 dams, but certainly connectivity, aquatic connectivity throughout the entire watershed is going to be important. I think there are a lot of really small or kind of fallen apart dams and culverts and things that we will, I think, can be removed and really assist with connectivity without kind of hurting anybody's recreational opportunities or things like that, getting rid of ponds. I'm just writing some notes here. Invasives are another, of course, that we're working a lot on. Are there particular projects that folks are doing that they really need support, or, you know, I should think about as I'm always having my mind open for grants and things to include? I know we're assisting with Hopedale. We have a grant in that we're waiting to hear back from for the final on culvert culvert assessment throughout the watershed.
I have a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I heard more than once over the weekend that we need a larger voice from the community concerning the fish ladder project, not just voices from the people on this call, but from the communities themselves, that people that we haven't heard from yet. And so I'm trying to do that with Central Falls and Pawtucket, and we reached out to both, but we have meetings with Central Falls and Pawtucket, but we haven't heard back from them. So I'm going to circle back today to Pawtucket to see, you know, are they going to, we asked for information from them and to meet with them to get the resolution passed. So, but I think that's important. We need a bigger voice from the community, especially when we have wastewater spills and things like that. They have to hear from us. It's going to be important for the future of this river.
Yeah, thanks. So on that note as well, there will be some work. I don't think that everything is finalized in terms of outreach for grants or notification for grants. I won't say the specifics yet, but hopefully the collaborative is also going to be specifically focusing on how we can move forward and be more accessible as well. I know we have meetings on Friday mornings. Only if you have this as part of your job or you're retired that you have the time to do it. But we, you know, should we have meetings in the evening? How do we include more people? How do we have more kind of community oriented conversations instead of just professional conservation kind of folk conversations? So we're hopefully going to be working on that in the next few months as well with some additional funding. So more to come on that, but you're totally right, John. Peter.
Yes, Steph, it was great to meet Colin Novick down in Providence. He's from Worcester, but that's where we got to get together. And he reminded me that his project that he really wants to make happen in Worcester is removal of the dam on Poor Farm Brook. And it's on the list that the city has, and they've already done all their engineering for taking it down. The only work is to put together a bid package. So it seems like that is a low-hanging fruit, that there's a dam that ought to be taken down. It's a cold water fisheries. It would store local passage from Lake Quinsigamond up into Poor Farm Brook. So no one's resisting it. It just needs to get it prioritized on the city. And if there are other ways, maybe we can sweeten the deal by access or whatever to move the city and this project. Colin really wants to make it happen, so.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of project that I'm looking for. So I'm glad you brought that up, Peter. Thank you. And I can talk to Colin more about it. And I'm very familiar with Poor Farm Brook and the significant challenges it faces as a very urbanized cold water fishery. Susan.
I just want to just tag on to what John Marshland, and then we just talked about how to outreach the communities who really facing this. And that is a struggle that I'm going through right now. I am, as you know, I'm in the ZAP 50 steering team, and they doing awesome job, rallying all these people from the top. But me, I'm a captain, and one of the captains of Providence in Pawtucket. I'm having such a hard time to even broaching these to community members because, first of all, they don't have a means of having access to this information, and even if they do, they really have a lot of things on their plate. So I'm being very careful, not to kind of not that I don't. I support everything said here, but that disparity, that outreach them, I think is still mind-boggling to me, and it just. So I'm just letting you know that there are, I'm glad to see that some people just broach that aspect, which is very important, and but I just want to. I'm working on it, and I think we need to have this conversation going forward. In terms of, because some of them, when I mentioned about this ZAP 50 things, they were very resentful in some ways, because as we all know, a lot of environmental movement, started with expelling these native people out of where we are actually working on. So it is really sensitive issue. And so I'm just letting you know. And also same thing, Ray and others who are into ZAP 50, this is one of the reasons that I'm just keeping my mouth shut, because I don't know how to breach this, gap. And but I'm glad that we are, becoming aware of this and, ready to address this. So I just want to let you know.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Ted?
Yeah, I was mentioned about Joanne Holohan from BRWA and doing some education work and Viruscope and Viruscape and other work. But she, we have a goal to try to scale up the watershed knowledge, awareness, education in the whole valley. And honestly, with our capacity and ability, we've been somewhat piecemeal. We hit it here and there, but we'd love to see and work with others, because it's going to take more than us and Joanne certainly to kind of institutionalize and make it a regular part of a curriculum, or at least an annual event for, say, fifth graders or something, where this watershed information gets out there in all the schools, to all the communities, just to kind of plant that seed. So that's something that we continue to work on, and we're frankly struggle with to some degree, but it's certainly one of our 20 goals, and we just want to remind people that we need to keep at that.
Yeah, I think school education is going to be really important too. And I know that both BRWA and BRWC are both working on that through different lenses. And I know BRWC is also getting Kitticock Speaks into some of the schools and talking about the Indigenous history of the landscape. Right?
Yes, yeah, we're trying to. Running into the same problem as Susan.
Yeah.
You were asking about timing of meetings. So because ZAP is going on, I've been setting this time aside, and I'm going to go, be an engineer at 12:30. But I think it might, I might be able to be involved. The average person might be able to be involved if you could split your meeting time sometime during the day, because obviously there's all these professionals who are working during the day, but like, I don't know, every month or maybe every other month, meeting from like 6 to 8 at night or something like that, or 6 to 7, or whatever makes sense depending on your topics or location or whatever. But I think that would bring you a whole bunch of other people that really aren't as flexible as I am.
Yeah, I wondered that if it's a quarterly meeting that's a little more public maybe, and we do in the evening or on Saturday or something. yeah, we would like to make time for more folks to attend.
Because there's a lot of people on all these different boards, you know, like the Nature's Trail Committee, like the guy who's in charge of our committee, he works during the day. His job isn't flexible. So, but you know, I'm sure he'd be very excited, and lots of other people on you know, conservation commissions, all these people who are, you know, regular 9-to-5ers and do these other things outside of that. I think they would be interested in being involved, or at least being aware.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks. Other kind of specifics of projects that you would like to move forward, or that we can help support, or you'd like to share about, or specific topics that we should focus on? No. Okay. So I think I'm just gonna kind of keep picking away. I have, speaking of which, I have so many thank you cards to get out. So if you don't go to your office very often, check out your office, because we have these really beautiful cards coming your way for folks. And I know I've asked some of you who I don't have your address for it, if you could provide that to me so I can get it to you. And we're going to do Katie is working. Thank you so much, Katie. She's working on a follow-up to our paddle, so we can get that on the website and share it out with people. And once the paddle is kind of closed that chapter and moving on, we can start working on some of these really specific things. So I'd like to get more involved with Fish Passage. I want to be useful to Mass Rivers about the drought. Be able to create some sort of this access map or information that we can share maybe on the website, and work with Emily on some visuals for that. She's also continuing her project on turning to the river and these stories, having people write letters to the river and creating an anthology. She's also working on creating a probably like a physical art show in person with some of the items that people have found in the river. So we found some really interesting things that we've saved and we're going to put in the show. So for folks that are participating in the August 27th ZAP cleanup, if you find something kind of odd or interesting or unique, you know, set it aside instead of just throwing it in the trash, and, you know, let me know and we can reach out to Emily and see if she wants to include it in her show. That would be neat. I will continue working with BRWA on the CSO issue, and we'll get that tour set up. We are also going to, once I have that date, we'll set up another tour with Upper Blackstone. I know you guys are awesome and always welcoming for tours. We appreciate that too. If you're available tomorrow to do that invasives cleanup, water chestnut down in Central Falls, I think there are going to be a lot more of those coming in spring next year. And we will keep thinking about connectivity and this opportunity for removal. I'll follow up with Colin Newvick for Farm Brook specifically and see how I can help there. Anything else, folks, while we have each other on the call?
Steph, I didn't know if you'd covered this already and I missed it, but what's the latest on continued funding for your position and the collaborative?
Technically, I am funded through March right now. So I don't anticipate that I will suddenly, you know, get laid off in March and not have any money. But I definitely need more funds to continue this work. We have about a $500,000 grant that we're waiting to hear back on right now. A lot of that money, most of that money is being passed through to other organizations. So it's like, I forget how many months of my salary, maybe like 6 months, maybe of my salary in there. So definitely still need some, and I'm not sure that we'll get that grant. I know there were some feedback on the preliminary proposal that Clark has a really high overhead because we're a university and they don't want to fund high overheads for this kind of work. So there's some challenges there, and I've talked to Clark about it. I've talked to our regional administrator about it and from EPA. And I think that everyone's trying to kind of work together and figure it out and make it happen. But if folks hear about really good grant opportunities, let me know. We'd like to kind of
So
get a
when-
list of those
So
going.
when you apply for a grant though, is it Clark University applying for the grant and they're the recipient? So their development office can help you file grant proposals and work with you on it?
Yeah, I have a grant administrator that helps me file things and manage the reporting.
So do you get to meet with them and strategize? Or is there anything we can do as community leaders to encourage that? Because we were all so excited when Clark stepped up. So just
Yeah.
feels like we want to keep encouraging them to stay in the ring.
Yep. I will say that I had an enormously encouraging conversation with Clark's president, David Fithian, in the past month. He was very excited to hear more about the program and the kind of work that we do. And I will be speaking to some additional folks at Clark in the leadership team about our work. And hopefully from there, it will, spark some additional conversations with the development office and getting additional interns and things like that. So more to come, hopefully.
Okay, that's encouraging. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. So if anyone else is putting in a grant and you want to put in some time for my salary, feel free, I won't complain. But yeah, I'm not super worried about it. We'll find some funds and we'll keep going. Because now that I got this job, I can't imagine doing anything else.
Great. Well, worry is a good thing though. So worry a little bit because that motivates us all.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. I'm gonna let you go a little bit early. Happy Friday. If you haven't taken your summer vacation yet, please take some summer vacation, get some time off. And I will send you some follow-up notes pretty soon. And if anyone wants to see more pictures, let me know and I'll get them over to you.
Thanks.
Exciting things coming. See you at ZAP.